Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mystery Masterclass today. I've been alluding to the Sacred Trickster, and a few weeks ago, I actually created a guide on the Sacred Trickster. So today, I want to actually speak into the Sacred Trickster because I know that messaging is the foundation of everything you're trying to bring out into the world. I know that messaging is where you get to create the impact that you are here to create. And it's really tricky to nail our messages, whether that's in our elevator pitches when people are asking us what we do, or in our copy on our website. How do we really get across the depth of the work that we do when it's hard to put words to it? This term, sacred trickster, actually really struck a chord for me when I was reading about, I believe it's Gene Key 26. In one of Richard Rudd's books, he actually uses this label, the sacred trickster. And the gene keys, what I love about the gene keys is, I think most of you are IPEC coaches or familiar with IPEC at the very least. What I love about the gene keys is it's always divided into three different versions of the key, which is directly correlated to the three circles of awareness in consciousness, in our energy leadership model, in the 7 levels of energy. And so the first circle of awareness that we talk a lot about is where our stress and our catabolic energy lives. And Richard Rudd refers to this as the shadow. And the second circle of awareness is where we are our most powerful human version of ourselves. We are operating very well in the human realm, and we're confident and we feel strong, we feel powerful, we feel articulate, we feel clear, we feel trust, we feel joy, we feel happiness, we feel success. Like, we feel all those things in the second circle of awareness. And Richard Rudd refers to this in his model as the gift. And then the third circle of awareness, Richard Rudd refers to as the city, which is our 100% spiritual self, where we're really tapped into our highest levels of consciousness, aligned with the all, with source, with God, with universe. And so I really gravitate towards Richard Rudd and his description of these keys because he describes basically the three circles of awareness for all these different aspects of ourselves. And we all have different keys that are activated and not activated. And this particular key is activated for me. And the reason why I'm really excited to share it with all of you is because it was very validating for me. One of the things that I personally have created a lot of self-judgment is most of my messaging is very egocentric. And throughout the life of business, for those of you that have also played with egocentric messages, but your heart is really pure and your intention is pure, you may feel like a fraud or an imposter, or like you just sound like everybody else out there. And how do you really sound different if your message is the same? How to build a 6-figure business, how to build a 7-figure business. We all come across hundreds of those messages every single day. And also, how do I do that authentically? And am I now just being greedy and selfish? And so all of these stories come up many times when I'm sharing a more egocentric message. So when I happened across this term, the sacred trickster, it was like my entire nervous system started to settle into, that's what this is. It's a both and. And so I just want to go through the trickster archetype when it comes to marketing, the sacred archetype when it comes to marketing, and how the sacred trickster is a marrying and a melding of them both. And I want to walk through what happens and what type of people we attract into our life when we are in full-blown trickster energy, when we're in full-blown sacred energy, and the pros and the cons of operating from those two, and then how we get to have our cake and eat it too when we adopt becoming a sacred trickster, and when we can bring our energy into alignment with it. So I don't need to go into the gene keys. You don't need to go down that rabbit hole. I just wanted to give a little background and definitely give credit to Richard Rudd, because the second that word was used, and this was used in the gift. So the gift, the second circle of awareness, which is what we're all in when we're operating business. We must be in the human realm, taking action, doing it from a place of confidence and personal power. So let's talk about the trickster first and foremost. The trickster, we're all very familiar with. The trickster is the majority of people who have externally successful businesses do so because they have fully embraced trickster messaging. What I mean by that is it is messaging that at the end of the day, and all of us that are intuitive and can smell bullshit from 800 miles away and are operating from a higher level of consciousness can feel, the trickster messaging is always, first and foremost, the intention behind it. So again, the energy behind a message is what drives what we're attracting in, not the message itself, which keep that in mind when we get to the melding of these two worlds. But the trickster, the messaging is all about me, myself, and I. And it's usually coming from a place of not enoughness, a place of needing to prove oneself, a place of needing to convince people, needing to manipulate people. And because it's coming from that place, it's coming from the inner critic, it's coming from a bottomless pit place. People are willing to say or do whatever it takes in order to validate their self-esteem via making more money or having more clients. So a lot of the testimonials we even see out there, I had this message come to me a number of years ago. Most empires that we're looking at are built on the back of not enough. That is what creates this toxic hustle culture of push more, never ever enough. So no matter what level of income or revenue they reach, it still feels the same as when they were not making any money at all. So they go deeper into the trickster mechanics, the manipulation, all of those pieces, because what they're doing is they're siphoning the power from the people they're marketing to themselves, and they're not enoughness. They are abdicating all their power to external things and not standing in their true power. And so I know that for many of you, receiving trickster messaging or seeing trickster messaging can be really triggering because you can feel how self-serving it is, how they really don't care about you. They're trying to put you into a box. I can't even tell you how many investments I've made on trickster messaging. It just pulled me in hook, line, and sinker from my place of not enoughness of I must be missing something. I maybe don't know really what I'm doing. It got to a point, and I've shared this story many times, that I cashed in my pension and I had over $100,000 in credit card debt because I was a perfect match because of my insecurity around business to trickster messaging and their insecurity. They were reactive and I was repressed, and we were a perfect energetic match. But because I was making investments from my own not enoughness or my own feeling insecure and self-doubt, because I was making investments from that energy level and taking on debt from that energy level, I took on what I refer to as shadow debt. And shadow debt is basically the exact mirror of my not enoughness. And it's very hard to get rid of until we do the inner work to break through those inner blocks, till we stop abdicating all of our power and responsibility to people outside of ourselves that are actually operating from the same energy level, even though they have the external success because they've been pushing and hustling and doing it that way. It's the same energetic match. So this is where the majority of marketing and selling is happening, especially in the online place and offline place. This is the old way. This is the old guard of marketing and messaging. And it beats out the sacred messengers' work every single time, because our ego loves and craves certainty, proven paths. But not only are they promising proven paths, they're promising to have it in a very short amount of time. So our ego is, every time we're going to see a message that's get this in this many days or this many months guaranteed, versus a message that is, when we talk about the sacred marketer, which one are we going to choose? Our egos are making the majority of our decisions, which is why I actually believe that marketing and selling is one of the most powerful ways we can shift consciousness. It's one of the biggest gaps in the industry right now because hardly anybody knows how to do it in this way. So how do we shift our energy to start with so we're not attracted to those messages? And it's a process. I still sometimes I see a message and I'm like, ooh, I should do that. Ooh, I should get that. So any shadow debt that you're holding on to, first and foremost, let me share, because I know many of us go into multiple courses, multiple programs, multiple coaches, multiple consultants, multiple agencies. Oh my gosh, the agencies that promise you to do all your lead generation, take off all the things you don't like to do about business, take it all off your hands if you just give them 60% of your revenues or whatever it may be, and also pay up front to get everything set up to tens of twenties of thousands of dollars. All of that stuff, that is an us opportunity for growth. Because again, if you're in the game of impact, we we need for the evolution of our consciousness more marketers and sellers that are doing it from a high conscious place, but their message is actually breaking through the barrier of the ego, which means it's got to hit the ego and it's got to attract the ego, because then and only then can we actually truly do the deeper work. So to me, marketing and selling, and the reason why I'm so passionate about business and especially helping heart-centered entrepreneurs like all of you to grow your businesses, is because this is the new era. This is the new paradigm. This is the leading edge. The old paradigms are going to continue to crack and fall away. And we're seeing it a lot already, like with crazy things happening with people's Stripes accounts being shut down because they're making all these promises. The FTC is really starting to come down on people for their guarantees and their promises. It is coming, because what happens with the trickster is that the message will get stronger and stronger. The promises will get bolder and bolder. And eventually, anything that's operating from a place that's so far away from the truth of who we are, it must collapse. It must collapse. Plus, the collective consciousness is already increasing. So it's like this huge disconnect. We're hearing a ton in the coaching industry right now. There's a lot of people that are also now trying to capitalize and monetize on what's happening in the industry by saying, you gotta shift, you gotta be adaptable because the industry has changed. People aren't buying the way they used to. The reason being is because we've shifted our consciousness. We're in higher levels of consciousness, so what used to work isn't gonna work anymore. But the challenge is that whole audience isn't being served now because we're in the in-between. We're in the middle of everything. And it's a huge opportunity. There's a huge opportunity to understand audience energetics and speak through audience energetics, through our own energy. There's a huge opportunity to step into the sacred trickster that I'm going to be talking about here soon. There's just a huge opportunity that there's an entire market that's not being served because of the consciousness mismatches that are happening because of so much of the work that we've all been doing around our own personal growth. And that's really what's happened, is that the reason the consciousness is shifting is not because I'm helping people shift their consciousness, because I'm shifting my consciousness constantly. And when you shift your consciousness, that ripples out and creates unseen impact across the world. We've talked many times about David Hawkins. It just gives me goosebumps every single time when he says that just one person operating at Christ level consciousness has the opportunity to eradicate all of the catabolic consciousness of the entire world. Doing our own work changes everything. And also, it eliminates bringing on shadow debt. It eliminates feeling disappointed, feeling resentful, wanting to give up, starting to have doubts in yourself, starting to not feel capable, getting bright, shiny object syndrome, chasing the next thing, thinking you're missing something. I can tell you right now that every single client that I work with, they're not missing anything. They just don't know they already have it all. My role is to help show you that you already have everything that you're looking for so that you can stand powerfully in it, and then help you craft an authentic message and form your business model in a way that just feels really good to bring it forward. So that's the trickster. I think we can all recognize and understand it. I'll also say one of my mentors from this year, he has a group of entrepreneurs. Every single entrepreneur is multiple six-figure, seven-figure, multiple seven-figure, eight-figure exits, like really strong business acumen. And the number of stories in that group of people burning their businesses down and wanting to step into more impact is unbelievable. And again, it's because they've grown beyond their old model and approach to business. And so we're just in the middle of a really exciting shift when it comes to online marketing and selling in general. I want to say it's a true, genuine shift into more heart-centered, connected, collaborative, beautiful relationship building, patience, trust, surrender. We're not all the way there yet, but we're definitely in the in-between. I'm going to actually share an example of this. It's so interesting. I didn't think of this until just now. So one of the things that's in the works right now for me is finally getting my book on Audible. It's something that I wanted to do since the book was published, and I just haven't done it. And I want to read my own book and just feel that creative energy again of what all came through in the book. And so Metaconscious Entrepreneur coming soon to Audible. So Elaine, who's on my team, was vetting all these companies, and we happened across a company that she felt very good about. The investment was totally fair, felt like a huge value. It was an easy yes because we fully vetted them. One of the questions I asked right out of the gate, because my experience with most agencies, when you go with an agency as opposed to a freelancer, which by the way, that's something that I'm realizing more and more, that if somebody's selling you something and you identify that it's something you want, you can likely really support in this gig economy or creator economy a freelancer, somebody who maybe they don't want to build a big agency and hire out all the work to people underneath them, but genuine, like deep, talented, amazing, brilliant people who just want to do their craft. And so, all that to say, we hired this company. One of my main questions before I signed the contract was, is this all inclusive? Are there any upsells or additional things you're going to be asking for investment on? I just wanted complete transparency and honesty. And if they said yes, I may still have signed the contract and I would have been able to set a boundary. I would have been able to just say, okay, that's great. Just so you were clear, the only thing I am interested in or need at this time is getting my book sound engineered for Audible and uploaded to all the Audible sites. That's the only thing I wanted to invest in. It's very clear. So when we know what we want, like we know how to get it. They said, nope, there are no upsells. Within 24 hours, I was on the call with the project manager and he started asking me all these questions about Amazon and my book. And I'm like, what does this have to do with the Audible? And I'm just telling you that you're missing out on a lot of royalties. You could be making a whole lot more money with the book. I was very clear. I said, I'm not interested in marketing the book. If I'm going to market anything, I'm going to market my more impactful services over my book. I only have so much capacity for marketing. I'm not marketing my book. The book is just there, right? It is there to help me secure speaking gigs, to help build some credibility. The book's doing everything it's meant to do to support me in the deeper work that I want to be doing. I don't need to sell more books. I'm not trying to be a bestseller. They assured us there were no additional upsells. Within 24 hours, I'd received a proposal for $9,500 for marketing services that I didn't ask for. They didn't ask me a single question about myself, about what my goals were, about what was important to me, about who I was. They just took it and just threw up all of their offer onto me without asking me a single question about what I might have been looking for, what problems I'm having that they could possibly solve or use their gifts to solve. There was not even a sales conversation. I was talked at. I wasn't even talked at. They actually, I knew it was coming because they said, we'd really like you to be on the call. I said, my assistant can handle everything on that call. There's no need for me to be on the call. And she said they just hard pitched her the whole time. And I'm like, that's why I didn't even go on the call, because I could see it coming a mile away. So we pulled out of that contract and canceled with that company. And I feel so beautiful and expansive to start looking for freelancers that are truly passionate about doing just the pieces that we're looking for. So again, trickster marketing. Even when you know it's coming, they still trick you. So wait a second, we just said this wasn't going to happen. And then it just happened. And we haven't even started the project that I just paid for. Okay, any other thoughts on the trickster before I go into the sacred? Annie, thank you for bringing that forward, to know what you want and when it doesn't match, so you just say no. I have to say, I believe this is that lesson that we can all learn. So when you catch bright shiny object syndrome or something really shiny comes into your field because a marketer's popping it into your thing and it sounds just, your ego's just, let me have some of that. Oh my gosh, the guarantees, the results, the this, the that, like it's all just so packaged. The ego can hardly resist it. And this is actually pretty new for me, to not just be so opportunistic. This is the disadvantage of level 5 consciousness energy, where we see opportunity so quick and so fast, and we're willing to take risks. And it's absolutely one of the biggest disadvantages of level 5 energy. So I just bring it back to the present moment. What am I focusing on right now? What is the outcome I'm trying to create? What do I really want in the next 30 days? What was I even looking for in the first place when all this other stuff started to show up in my field? And it's just like pulling all those tentacles back in and just getting laser focused. And it's, okay, what do I want? And why do I want it? And is this connected to the thing that I want and the thing that I'm focusing my manifesting energy on right now, my vision on right now? And so I think that's the first thing. If we don't know what we want, we're just a wide open field. Our confusion clouds our judgment. And I just get this sense, I'm having this feeling of not having any energetic boundaries when we're confused. And so we just got to be clear. And it can be simple. It can be like, I want to get clients, but I'm clear I want to get them through speaking. Or I want to get clients, but I'm clear I want to get them through organic social media. So whatever it is, how do we focus all of our energy, harness our energy in the direction of that? and then block out anything that's not that. I was just crystal clear. I know the exact 3 initiatives that I'm really focused on right now: getting my book on Audible, getting back into networking, and getting back into speaking live. And if it's not related to those 3 things, I'm not interested, because I wasn't interested in selling more copies of my book. And they were guaranteeing a 200% ROI. So it's very attractive, right? They're like, you're going to get a 200% ROI. But what's the cost to get the 200% ROI? So that covers the financials. Okay, so you're saying over a year's time, I just get super logical. I pull all the emotion out of it because the ego is operating from emotion. For this particular situation, that sounds nice. I was like, hold on a second. Let me just slow this down. I'll just share the example of the book. I'm probably beating a dead horse right now, but you got me going on this, Annie. But I was like, hold on a second. A 200% ROI, that sounds really attractive. So if I'm investing $9,000, that means I'm making $18,000. So basically, I'm making $18,000 net profit. And I'm like, $18,000 in a year. I'm like, and what do I have to do? I have to oversee their team who's writing all of my material, writing all my blog posts. So I know what my time is worth. And so even though it makes me $18,000, it's taking time for me to oversee everything they're implementing. Instead, that time could be reinvested into something that actually really matters to me, and not managing a team of writers and all the stuff that they're doing and approvals and all this stuff. And so what is also the cost? So I know the potential ROI benefit from a financial standpoint, but that is not worth $18,000 to me at all. And then I thought bigger picture. And so then what happens when people read my book? Now, if they want to generate email list leads for me, that might be more worth it, because there's a lifetime customer value for me, because I'm able to continue to nurture, have conversation, and build relationship. But the people buying my book, I don't have their names or their email addresses. I have no clue who they are. So I just get this quick cash infusion, which isn't even a ton of money for the work that goes into it. And so it was just a ridiculous offer. But again, I just had to slow it all down and get really logical, because my emotion would be like, $1,000, that's almost $2,000 extra a month. That sounds pretty good. Who doesn't want an extra $2,000 a month? Hold on a second. You're running away with your glamorizing child story. What is the cost of doing this? What is the time investment of doing this? How much is your time worth? And it really quickly just dialed it all back. And that was the other thing too, is I would never have anybody write my materials. It was going to totally ruin my entire brand reputation. So yeah, that was like a hard no, because I've already learned that the hard way. You can't recoup misrepresentation of your brand and your message. You can. It just takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And then what's the point? Okay, so let's talk about the sacred marketer. Those of you that were like, yes, this is the reason why I shy away from marketing myself. It's highly likely most of you are sacred marketers. And what I mean by that is your heart is so pure and so true and so full of the intent of the impact that you want to make. You want to make money. You like to make money. It's important. And most of the sacred marketers or the clients that I work with, they'd be like, but it's not about the money. And so a lot of our work is around the wealth consciousness side of things. So the sacred marketer, these are the messages that most people are really good at coming up with. They're very soft. They're very much how it's received by an audience, or how it's received at a networking event is, oh, sounds so nice. That must be so rewarding. Your work must be so enjoyable. And you might be sitting on the other side saying, yeah, if only I could do more of it. Like, where are all the clients? And it's because nothing about the message is grabbing the ego and that emotional decision maker. And so we can't even get them through the door to do the work that we're really passionate about doing. And so the sacred marketer does a lot of messaging around purpose and enjoyment and confidence and values and happiness and satisfaction, and a lot of explaining about the power of coaching or what's possible for them to feel more satisfied. And it just is, that sounds really nice. And likely, maybe, again, I'm going to say, our biggest egocentric things that we are most attached to as humans, that we have the hardest time parting with, are time and money. Really think about it. Time and money. We are asking people to make a choice to separate from the 2 things that they are most afraid to separate from. So for things that would be nice, or that sounds fun, or sounds enjoyable, and that the price points that most coaches are operating from, so this is the other thing, is that we outprice that market, because the nice to have market is not high ticket coaching. We're willing to invest a certain amount of time and a certain amount of energy and a certain amount of money into sacred marketing messages, like Kindle books, a little course maybe for $50, like podcasts are free, all that feel good stuff. It's hard to connect the dots for people about why that would be worth $500 a month, $1,000 a month, even $300 a month. And we know as coaches, like our craft and the impact that it has, or as service-based entrepreneurs, whether you're a coach or a consultant or just the work or a creative, it's highly valuable, but we have a hard time articulating it when we're, one, in avoidance of sounding like a trickster, and two, formulating all of our messaging around this very soft space. Now, the thing is, trying to think if the sacred marketer's message would land with people of a certain level of consciousness. But ultimately, I think where it really goes amiss when we look at audience energetics is when they're under stress and they're still responding from high levels of consciousness and energy. They're likely at a normal state of operating from extremely high levels of consciousness, because if they're able to respond that way to stress, and at that level of consciousness, there's already deep wholeness and completeness and detachment. And so we're not even looking for that stuff, which is why else I think those messages go amiss, because the audience that would be willing to invest in it basically is already experiencing it. So it's nothing that's actually necessary to invest in. And so there's a mismatch there. It's almost like if we just look at the levels of energy, like level 6 people, like level 4 people still are operating. Again, typically our buying decisions are made about stressful situations. So most of the trickster messaging is coming to people about their stressful situations. This is why we focus on pain points so much. And what's the pain, or even the desire, because desire is also level 2, or the second level of consciousness energy, because anything that we desire, the only reason we desire it is because we are in lack of it. And so this is why the trickster messaging works so well, is because the majority of people are experiencing some level of stress in the big 3 hot topics: money, health, and relationships. And so that messaging goes straight to that stress reactive energy. But the reality is that all of us, even in our high levels of consciousness, experience those stress reactions. I have yet, after doing hundreds of assessments, to find somebody who is operating at an anabolic state when they're under stress, at high levels of consciousness when they're under stress. And I remember, now this message has shifted a little bit at IPEC since I heard it, and maybe I misinterpreted it. I remember very clearly somebody asked Bruce D. Schneider about an ARL that was over a 5.0. And his words were, it's bullshit. They're answering the questions the way, because anybody who's over a certain level of consciousness honors and accepts the lower levels of consciousness. So we don't pretend they're not there by saying, oh no, I never worry, I never have any of that stuff. We don't spiritually bypass them. So basically my interpretation of that statement is that once they're at that level of consciousness, they still acknowledge and accept those lower levels of energy. However, they also know how to just allow them and move through them, so they don't create the stress in their life that drives them to invest or drives them to take those actions. So this is why pain point messaging is important, is because it's acknowledging that, yes, we operate from possibility, but also when we're under stress, we are in pain and we are in our stuff. And that's exactly when we're most susceptible to that messaging. And if all that's available to us when we're under stress is trickster messaging, then that's what we're going to take. That's what we're going to sign up for. Now, let's have some more messages out there like yours, where those are also available, so that we get to break through those stressors and truly find purpose and path, and realize like that what I thought I wanted wasn't actually what I needed, and what we're doing is what I really need, instead of going from program to program. I'm having something pop up, and this is something that I'm just starting to open up this month. In fact, at the bottom of the guide, there's an invitation to check it out if it's speaking to you. It's a messaging accelerator, and it comes with a full blueprint, a full business plan of exact steps to take every single week to build a consistent client load. And I've done about probably 8 of these with clients. And it's everything that people say that they want. It's a full blueprint, step by step, how to sell high ticket coaching, your messaging, your content, your elevator pitches, your everything is in this blueprint. It's the exact do this every week and you will sign clients. It's what all of us say that we want. And what happens for most people when they receive it is it drums up all of the things that are getting in the way. It's reminding me of when I used to go to networking events and I would say to everybody in the room, I'd say exactly what you need to do to scale your revenue. If I were to ask you, what's the next step to take your business to the next level? You know what to do and you likely know how to do it. But there's something else that's happening under the surface, and that's that you're not doing it. And so what I help people with is get to the bottom of how they know exactly what to do, but they're still not doing it so that they can finally achieve the success and the scale that they want to be achieving in their revenues. So that was my elevator pitch because it just hits. I know exactly what to do. I'm just not doing it. Why aren't you doing it? So let's break through that, because then when you do it and you feel good about doing it, you're going to get the results. But until we break through that, you're going to just keep thinking about the things that you should be doing. So the blueprint gives people exactly what to do. There's a lot of people out there that actually don't know what to do. I could go in a million different directions. Which way is the best way for me? And so we customize and make this blueprint completely authentic and comprehensive based on if people are attracted to online or attracted to offline, wherever they want to go, what they need support with in their messaging, if it's a website still, if it's this, if it's that. We just customize the whole blueprint. There's no excuses like, here's your plan, just go put it into action. And what happens is it drums up the deeper things that people really need. But if I say, oh, let me help you break through your inner blocks, and let me help you break through your procrastination, and let me help you break through, that's not as enticing as let me help you nail your messaging so that you can scale your business to 10 to 30K months. And so you can see the sacred messaging is we'll break through your blocks. You'll feel more successful. You'll have more momentum. You'll achieve peak performance. What does that actually all mean to the ego? Unless we message in a way that gets people through the door, and then we are able to drum up all the deeper work that we love to do, that's where the impact happens. That's where the power happens. Because right now what happens is the tricksters are getting people through the door, giving them all their plans and their blueprints and their formulas, and they're doing it for them, but they still have all these inner blocks. And so even though that they're getting everything, even that they paid for, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel in alignment. It feels wrong. It feels off. Then they have resentment because it's not working. But why it's not working is not because the plan is broken, not because of what the tricksters are selling, but because of the inner stuff. So then the sacred markers are over here going, oh, I'm just going to help you with all the inner stuff. I'm going to make sure that you feel good and that it's authentic and it's aligned and you feel confident and all this. But they're like, no, I need the strategies. So that's the disconnect in messaging, is people think they need the formula, the strategies, the blueprints. So that's what they're investing in. But what they really need is what you're selling as a sacred marketer. So we have to marry those two things together. And that's what we do as a sacred trickster. Okay, the sacred trickster. I have to admit that I actually feel annoyed and frustrated, and this is likely why I disappear from messaging for time and time again, is that I consistently play with a sacred marketing message and a sacred trickster marketing message. I've tested this over and over again. And I test it over and over again because there's a part of me that always hopes. I literally just like hope that a sacred message is going to land, that a sacred message is going to be magnetic, and it's going to call people in, and it's going to create engagement, and it's going to spread my message far and wide. And half the time I do it because I'm really hopeful that it's going to go. Like, I'm waiting for the day that sacred marketers get to just be sacred marketers and we don't have to meld the two together. And the other part of it is, I honestly, even though I'm teaching this, and I think I play with maybe some rationalization in it, I don't care about 10 to 30K months. I don't care about that. But the people that I know I'm meant to help, their egos do. I love all things wealth consciousness, about the immense joy, happiness, and completion I can feel, even if I don't have the life that I have. And through all that detachment, being able to experience versions of heaven on earth. But I don't need any of it. And I cringe sometimes at my messaging. Even you will see the guide that I'm sharing with you is the Sacred Trickster. Everything in my heart and soul, everything about who I am and how I want to help people and what's possible for people and for you and for your life and for your business and for how amazingly magical it can feel when we focus on energy and energy alone and get really clear on what we really want. That's the zone for me. Yet when I speak about that and I don't connect it to an egocentric message, I'm invisible. And frankly, it pisses me off because that's the juice. That's the stuff. But no matter how much I talk about it, if I don't connect it to an egocentric message, nobody hears it or sees it. Nobody's going to show up for my events. And this might sound like a limiting belief, but I'm telling you, and maybe it is, and maybe I'm creating this reality, but I can, looking at the anecdotal evidence from hundreds, over 500 clients that I've worked with over the last decade, I am looking at, I've been watching marketing for 15 years. I've been watching emails. I've been watching which ones my ego opens and which ones my ego doesn't open. My ego is still making all the initial reactive choices. It's just how we're built. It's how our brains are built. There's actually pieces inside of our brain. I can't think of the name of this particular brain part, but its only job is to help us not feel afraid of failing, which is why anything that gives us a semblance of direction or certainty or a pathway that is proven, our brains instantaneously jump on it. It's just how we're built. It's how I'm built. It's how you're built. If you look at anything that you've purchased, there's been a reason for it, especially high investment. And it does not matter how conscious we are and how high of consciousness we have. We just want to be more intentional with those choices. We want to hijack that part of our brain to slow it down, which is exactly what Annie brought up about, hold on a second here. I know, brain, you really like, you're eating this for lunch. You're like, give me more, yum, this is yummy looking. Because your job is to help me feel like I'm not going to fail. And this person is giving me something that makes me feel like I'm not going to fail. So I should jump on it. But it's just slow it down and just hold on. That's that lizard part of our brain. It's survival. And if we're not hitting that part of the brain, then we're invisible. Okay, so Miriam, do you think it's harder to translate energy through written word? No. Our zone of genius. So the Sacred Trickster knows how to take words and infuse them with high level energy. So that's the power of the Sacred Trickster. The Sacred Trickster knows how to take the language of the trickster, but infuse it with true high conscious intention. And so what happens, my theory is, and what my experience has been because of the types of clients that I get to work with that come across my path, that I'm just honored and humbled every single minute of every day when I think of them, because they're so powerful and so beautiful. What happens, I believe, is we hit people holographically as a sacred trickster. We hit the ego, which is the mind. We hit the heart and the intuition with our intention. So we actually are, this is just coming to me, and maybe I'm just blowing smoke up my own ass right now, but what I believe happens, what's literally coming to me right now, is that the ego hits, it's literally holographic thinking. The ego hits and yes. And then there's something deeper that causes pause, and it just feels right. I can't even tell you how many of my clients are like, just intuitively it felt right. And so when we're infusing the words with energy, because it's not the words that matter, it's the energy behind the words. So again, I experienced this. My first test on all of this was back when I was doing Facebook ads, which Facebook ads are the fastest way to test messaging. I did an ad like that was spiritually inclined, and I did an ad that was egocentrically inclined. And I was able to compare the two instantly. But what I will tell you is both of them were infused with the same energy. It was just the words that changed. And what happened was this egocentric ad called in, the lead cost was like ridiculously low. Like at that time, it was like $2 a lead. And I remember, I didn't know if that was good or not, but I connected with a bunch of like high level Facebook ads people. And they're like, what's your cost per lead? Because I can probably help you make it better. And I was like, $2 a lead. They're like, what? Leads don't come for $2 a lead. They're usually like $6 a lead. What are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just infusing my words with energy. Like I'm infusing the entire invitation with energy. And they didn't probably get that, but I know that is why I had record breaking like lead costs, lead generation. At that time in business, we pulled 20,000 leads, huge 2,500% ROI on my ad spend, like crazy numbers, because I was really intentional about infusing everything I was writing with energy. So that's where I think written word, it's not different. It's like something has to carry the energy on its back. It's our written word and our spoken word that is the vehicle for our energy. And it doesn't matter what the words are that we say. What matters is why we're saying them. And higher conscious people can feel that because their bullshit detectors don't go off. And those are the people you want to call in because they already have a level of consciousness that they know that they are powerful. They know they have potential, and they know that they can't do it alone to unlock it. So they're truly coming from opportunistic, even though they're maybe in a stress reaction about money or about health or about relationship. But they are still in a normal operating place. They are in higher levels of consciousness. Whereas the trickster messaging and the audience energetics of that are going to attract people that have the lower levels of consciousness, not only when they're under stress, but it's pervasive. It's pervasive. So then even when things are going well or normally for them, they still are experiencing an underlying hum of stress. And so they're a perfect match for the trickster message because it's the same hum of not enoughness. But the second circle of awareness, our egos are still participating in all of our decision making. And if we're trying to bypass the ego or trying to tell people not to listen to their ego, like it's trying to tell a car to run on electric when it was made for gas, right? So yeah. So I just started talking about the sacred trickster. So let me share with you the part that I was like, gosh, sometimes I feel like this is a rationalization. We as marketers and business owners and entrepreneurs, our greatest tool is our own hyper awareness. So how do we have hyper awareness? It's a practice. So first and foremost, be gentle with yourself. It's okay to be attached to a sale and wanting to make money. Have your own acceptance processes around it. Because even if you move the needle, let's say the scale of detachment is 100% completely detached involvement, which is like level 7, and then there's 100% attachment. If you just even move that scale much, you are attracting a totally different audience. Have some grace on yourself. Like the goal isn't for you to be like, oh my gosh, I need clients, I need clients, I need clients, but I'm unwilling to do that messaging, which means I do this messaging, but then I'm not getting clients and it's stressing me out. It's okay, step into some egocentric messaging as even a level 3 rationalization place. Like, all right, I'm going to give this a try because at the end of the day, if I'm not going to get clients, I don't get to make the impact that I'm here to make. That's it. Like if my choice is to stick with messaging that feels 100% authentic and aligned, but it means I'm never going to work with clients, am I going to choose that? Or am I going to choose playing with a different message that allows me to work with clients? It's a choice. So sometimes we think I want to do both, and the both is there, but it's a process to be able to shift the energy from here to here. We don't get to start in 12th grade. We have to start in kindergarten. So we start where we are. And it's okay, I'm just going to adopt an egocentric message from a level 3 rationalization of, I really still want to get clients. This is what the level 3 rationalization will sound like. And I want to get clients because I want to have the impact that I know I'm here to make. And I love seeing the ahas and I love seeing the transformation. But I also know that if I don't step into this uncomfortable place of a stronger egocentric message, that I don't get to do that work. So I'm willing to do it so that I get clients, right? So it's playing with your own thought patterns and playing with your own frequency and having hyper awareness around it and acceptance about it. This is as far as I can stretch it right now. I'm willing to try it. I'm willing to see what happens. Not comfortable with it, but heck, what if it works? What if it's great? And I can tell you my process, I don't usually go into the past to figure out what blocks I need to, but I'm sure it still bubbles up in projections and stuff still to this day. But in the beginning of my business, when I first started learning online marketing, I created a webinar that was all business strategy. There was no energetics in it, which just was not who I was. And it was teaching other people how to do webinars. I still have shame about it because it was all trickster messaging. It was all imposter trickster messaging. It was not authentic at all. There was nothing about it. Its sole purpose was to make fucking money. And so I can speak to this because I've played on every level of this scale. And that's what allows for you to have hyper awareness is that when you play and you allow yourself to be a trickster and you allow yourself to be a sacred marketer, and we start releasing judgment around the tricksters. And one of the most powerful ways that we can start doing that is having compassion for tricksters. We have to have compassion for them. If you think about the messages you're receiving that maybe are currently triggering on some level, but if you start to think about what must be happening for them, that they're literally probably willing to sell their soul to get this sale. Like, how must somebody feel to do this in this way? You know, what's happening? What's the energy under the energy? And you can start to build compassion because it's going to hit a breaking point. It's going to collapse. It must collapse. It's just how it works because it's too far away from the truth of who we are. And for most people, and like I said, in the group that I'm seeing, most people it collapses because they get a divorce, because they've compromised everything in the name of making money for their not enoughness. They have a heart attack or a significant health challenge that makes them realize this isn't worth it. I got to do things differently. Or they're just hitting the head with a 2x4. Or I've heard a lot of this too. They build businesses with huge teams, and then because their ego gets the best of them, and it's so me, myself, and I focused that their teams rebel and steal their intellectual property. Something happens in even the business that causes it to collapse. And we can genuinely intend and wish for people that are approaching us that it's, I'm so sorry. I'm going to pray or I'm going to intend that your higher self comes forward before you have to get hit in the head with a 2x4. I'm just going to send well wishes their way. Okay, we are at the top of the hour. There's the Sacred Trickster guide that can recap a lot of what we talked about. What are you walking away with? What does it mean for you in your business? And then if you're interested in the one-on-one messenger accelerator and the deeper work around this, definitely reach out. Okay, with that, we're back in 2 weeks for Mystery Masterclass. Thank you all for being here today, for joining me amidst the void / Sacred Trickster message. Wishing you all well, sending you so much love and intention for exactly what you want, what your heart wants. Until next time, goodbye.